You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. All right, now joined by Jason Scheer. I'm Mike Luke. You know you're awesome when you've got Jason Scheer as the ultimate pinch hitter coming in at the last second. Jason, appreciate you there, boss, even though you fired me from another occupation.
No problem. Whatever you need, Mike.
All right, I appreciate it. So let's get started here. The first thing I think I want to talk about is Arizona is now ranked 11th in the nation. So again, they didn't fall as much as I think some people thought that they would fall. But at this point in the game, we do know where Arizona's strengths and where Arizona's weaknesses are, and we're going to start on the perimeter. The perimeter just isn't very good. It's not that it stinks, but it's just not very good, and they're not getting what they need to be able to get from Kerr Kriisa, from Courtney Ramey, from Pella Larson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's just not good. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And look, it's possible that we're going to say this and on Thursday night, all those threes start falling because it's a jump shooting backcourt. But that's also the problem is it's a jump shooting backcourt. They're not breaking down guys off the dribble. They're not getting in the lane and making plays happen. It's, if those shots aren't going in, you could pretty much predict how the game and how difficult it is going to be to score for Arizona because it's just not that type of backcourt.
All right, let's talk about Kerr Kriisa. And by the way, I agree. We're going to get Scheer's prediction, but I actually do think that Arizona is going to play well this week. So the sky is not falling. Kerr Kriisa, a lot's been made, and I don't put much into it about N'Faly Dante's quotes about how, he doesn't like him because he talks a lot. I don't think that really had anything to do with the game. Arizona was going to lose that regardless. But, at the end of the day, though, Kerr did ask to be a target, and this is something that he's going to have to deal with. If you're going to be a target, though, I'm just more of you got to be able to back it up, and he's not backing it up at all.
Yeah, and something feels off with him to me. Like it feels like maybe it's because he doesn't have the Ben and Dalen, whatever, to back him up, but it kind of feels like he's lost some of that energy. Like there's not as much yelling and all that. And the trash talk, it's not that obvious. Like last year, it was super obvious. Like you watched the game and he was talking to everyone. This year, maybe it's a little quieter in that regard, but it's almost like he's been asked to tone it down. And I wonder if it's impacted his game a little bit. But yeah, whenever you're gonna talk trash, you better back it up or else you're gonna see what happened. And he got dunked on and it was all over the place because people just don't like him very much.
All right, you like, and you've brought me around on this as well. You like the idea of putting Kylan Boswell in that starting backcourt next to Kerr Kriisa, and a big thing about it for you is that Courtney Ramey, in your opinion, just isn't playing very hard. And honestly, I kind of see the same exact thing right there, in that it just kind of is going through the motions, and you expect more from a guy who is now in his 5th year in college than just kind of going through the motions, make a few threes. Doesn't really play the defense that we were led to believe that he would. And right now, a guy like Kylan Boswell looks like he wants it more.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be – eventually you have to get to a point where there's accountability. And Arizona's bench isn't very good, but if you're going to make a move, that's the move to make, in my opinion. And Ramey's a 5th-year guy. I mean, it's not like the system is super complicated. He came in with the identity of being really good on defense, and he hasn't guarded well at all. I mean, there was a play, I don't remember what point it was, where Oregon player drove right by him and he didn't even move. And then he fouled him on the back of the head because he was lazy and late. And the thing is, if you're playing hard and you're not very good, you can at least make up for it and say, hey, this guy's playing his butt off. He's defending, whatever it may be. Courtney Ramey's effort just isn't there. Like, it doesn't look like he really gets bothered by much in terms of the final result. And Boswell, the one thing we could say is even on the nights where he doesn't shoot well, he plays really hard defensively. He's enthusiastic, and it's time to give the kid a chance. And, if you want to keep Ramey in the starting lineup and just take his minutes away and give more to Boswell, I could live with that. But I think it's time to give Boswell more minutes and Ramey less.
Yeah, and Tommy Lloyd talked about it before the year, and I want to talk about more Boswell here in just a second. But not a good weekend for the Four Peaks. But one thing, though, that I will say is it's always a good weekend for Four Peaks Brew, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Check it out at the downtown location. Great stuff. Or come to the watch party. Got multiple people on here. My guy Matthew Bothwell, Anthony Humbert showing up there, KB Thiel as well. Andre Veras was there as well. Again, appreciate all you guys. Four Peaks, the official brew of PHNX Sports. Check out the show notes and the link in the description. And more furniture. morfurniture.com. Now, They've redone the entire studio. It looks fantastic for PHNX. They can do the same thing for you at a very good price as well. Check it out, morfurniture.com. Now, we'll get to Pella. We'll get to the big men here in a second. But Kylan Boswell has been a breath of fresh air. Tommy Lloyd talked about before the year that he thought that he was going to be one of the best point guards to ever come through here. I still won't go that far, but I will say that he's really intriguing when you look at it and thinking, man, next year at 18, maybe the following year at 19, this is a guy who, really could do some stuff. And his body is always going to be kind of unique like that, but he's quick. He makes plays. His shot's coming around. There's a lot to like with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good in high school. Like he's one of these guys where you see him play a couple times and you're like, okay, he's good enough. And his body is weird. Like if you are a scout and you're going off physical attributes, he doesn't have what you're necessarily looking for, but he plays his butt off. He's really good laterally. He defends well. And the fact that he's 17-year-old, I mean, he's going to have growing pains. He's going to have games where he goes out there like he did. I think it was a couple games ago where he goes, 0 for 4 with 3 turnovers, and that's just part of the growing process. And I think Arizona fans have to realize if you're playing Boswell more minutes, you're going to get some games like that. But those games are only going to help in the long run because, again, he should be in high school. But he's a guy where, you kind of pencil him in to be the starting point guard. He's not a guy that's probably going to the NBA early. It's just not physically. He's not necessarily that type of guy. But if you pencil
Don't tell that to our good friend Bruce Pascoe.
But if you pencil him in to be the starting point guard for 3 years, you can do much worse than that. He's legit.
You can do much, much worse than that. And again, too, he's ready to play more because physically he's ready. The only reason I don't play a guy like that is if I don't think that he's physically ready. You look at him right now; he's physically ready to do that. And as Lost Highway says right here, great name by the way, he's the most competent ball handler on the team. He's the one that Tommy Lloyd keeps talking about how he wants his guys to get downhill. Well, most of these guys aren't capable of that. Kylan Boswell is capable of that.
They need a guard that can get in the lane. I mean, Ramey does it once in a while, but doesn't really know what to do with it. Kerr doesn't really try. That's not his game. Boswell will at least try to dribble in and figure it out from there. And that's what this team's missing. They need a few more guys like Boswell, but right now he's the only one on the roster. And so that's why I think they need to give him more minutes. All
right. Now let's talk a little bit about Pella Larson. And again, Tommy Lloyd, A+ hire, that goes without saying. I do believe, though, that it's fair to say at this point that Pella was a little bit oversold. He's not offensively, he brings next to nothing to the table for you. Defensively, he's solid, but this isn't a guy that's playing in the NBA. And quite frankly, if you're penciling him in for 30 minutes a game next year, you better hope that he dramatically improves because there's a lot to be concerned about with his game there, Jason.
Pella's frustrating as heck. To me, he's the most frustrating guy on the roster because we saw games like Tennessee where he played well. We've seen games where he's come up big for Arizona and been the difference and taken 10 shots. And then the next game, he takes 2 shots and you don't even know he's on the court offensively. And I always go back to early in the season when Tommy Lloyd said that Pella is good enough. He just needs to recognize he's good enough. Right. And you want guys to be confident. Like when you're playing basketball, you want those guys that think they can do everything. And Pella's not that type of guy. He's good enough to do a lot more than he is, but for some reason that just hasn't clicked for him. And he's just so passive, and that's not what Arizona needs.
Are we sure that Pella can actually shoot?
It's weird because you say that, and then we watch the practice where he made like 7 threes in a row, guarded and all that. So
that's what's weird about it. Yeah.
When you see that, you're like, yeah, he could shoot. But again, it's passive. Like his release is faster in practice when he doesn't care. And then in the game, in his head, it's like, should I shoot it? Should I not shoot it? And by the time he decides, his form's all screwed up. There's a guy on him. He's getting blocked. It's just go shoot the ball. Like go put up 10 shots. What's the worst that can happen? Courtney Ramey, the one thing I'll give him credit is he doesn't care what percentage he's shooting. He's shooting.
For
that's
sure.
Kind of the attitude that Pella needs.
All right. Andre Veras says, Jason, how do you improve the bench play this year to get them ready for March and next season? I don't know that that's capable. Or I don't know that's possible. I think you just got what you got right now, and you hope that they can improve.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, maybe you get a better effort from Vesar, but the problem is you're at a point in the year you can't put Vesar in there against USC and UCLA,
right?
For an extended amount of time. Like you could put Dylan in there for 3-4 minutes for a break, but it's Cedric Henderson hasn't played well coming off the bench against better competition. It's just kind of a situation where you are what you are. And there's no, I mean, it's very rarely does a bench significantly improve during a season.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to look at another team and say that's kind of what Arizona needs right there. Anthony Humbert, by the way, be nice about Henry. Be nice. We like Henry, but we're big Dylan Anderson shows fans on this show. At least I am. But two things: the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Here's the deal. You can put down $5 on an NBA game and get up to $200 in free plays. 21 and up, Arizona only. Or you could be like Jason Scheer and be watching every single Xavier game, excited as heck, slapping the wall, slapping your knee, as excited as you are, and you could bet on Xavier on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. I don't know what deal that'll give you because it's an NBA deal right now, but at least check it out. And Tap and Bottle. A lot of people on here showed up. Can't thank you guys all enough. Anthony, Andre, Matthew, Kobe, you guys are all awesome. Tailgate Nate. Appreciate all of you showing up. We'll be having another one here shortly. Check out again the show notes and the link in the description. But Tap and Bottle downtown for all the watch parties. All right, now let's move up to upstairs a little bit here. Azuolas Tubelis, to me, even though Arizona is probably going to finish about, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. You know who Arizona needs, and I hate saying this in the transfer portal? They need to get two guys like the Cambridge brothers at ASU. That's what they need.
Yeah, athletic wings. I mean, the number one priority in the offseason is athletic wings.
Right.
I mean, it is by far the number one priority. You have your point guard in Boswell. You know, we'll see what happens with Tubelis and Ballo, but that's what they're missing. Right.
And if you can find two guys like that, and again, I don't need them to score 18 a game, but I need them to be like kind of like they are at ASU. Basically, you can count on them between for about 11 to 15 a game, and sometimes they're going to go for 20 and be a difference maker. That's the kind of template. Again, I don't need that per se, but I need something like that.
You need Dalen Terry, guy that gets out and like I said the other day, you got mad at me, but I said that.
Oh, and you're wrong about this, but go ahead.
Let me rephrase. Out of the guys that weren't clear, like obviously Ben that's who you want, but he was a clear top 10 pick. He's not, right. If you look at a Coloco or you look at Dalen's that guy. Dalen's not playing right now, right?
Right.
Had he chosen to come back to college, he's getting 35 minutes a game. He's arguably, the second best player on this team, and he's the missing link. Like, I'm not sure how many games Arizona's lost if they have Dalen, because he gets the ball up, he defends. And it was similar to when Sean was struggling at Arizona. We always said he needed that athletic wing. And when his team struggled is when he stopped landing the Rondays of the world. And in college basketball, that's probably right now, if you look at the best teams in the country, they have athletic wings.
Yes, exactly. Now, one guy that we need to continue to tip our cap to is Azuolas Tubelis. Arizona probably is going to finish the year, third in the conference, something like that. But Azuolas Tubelis, to me, is clearly the Pac-12 player of the year. I mean, every single game, 20 and 10, it doesn't matter who they're playing. There were a lot of people that were questioning his mental makeup after last year, but he came in and he's answered all those questions times 5 there.
Yeah, I mean, he's been awesome. He's answered any criticism for last year where he wasn't tough enough. He's shown toughness. His spin move off the block is ridiculous. It's unguardable. I mean, there's teams that have tried to stop him, and then they can, and they just go focus on Umar and double and triple team Umar and say, you know what? Zoo's going to get his anyway. Let's just whatever. And so he's going to finish the season 20 and 10. He's the conference player of the year, first team All-American. He's a guy that, I mean, he's just awesome.
All right. Mike Zuniga says, do we think Lloyd does change the starting lineup this year?
I actually don't.
Or this week? I don't either.
I think he does what I said, where he keeps Ramey in the starting lineup and kind of gives an uptick in Boswell's minutes. But a lot of coaches, people have to realize that a lot of coaches don't change starting lineups because of the chemistry and the overall feeling of the team. They'd rather just give minutes at the end of the game to other guys and things like that, but they'll keep the starting lineup the same.
Right. And one thing we do need to mention about Umar Ballo, and again, big fans of Umar Ballo on this show. Let that be known. He's a leader of men, as we have put out there many, many times. But Umar's limitations were really shown against N'Faly Dante. I don't really care what the numbers are. N'Faly Dante is a better basketball player than Umar Ballo, and that's not a put down to Umar Ballo. But when you watch Dante, he's longer. He moves easier. He was able to bother Ballo in a way that Ballo could never bother Dante. So people need to keep that in mind a little bit, and that he is going to have limitations against dudes like that.
Yeah, I mean, Dante has similar numbers to Ballo at this point. He just is a bit inconsistent. But you also got to keep in mind the thing with Ballo that I worry about is he's forget the illness. I mean, obviously that impacted him. But what we're seeing now are teams are just double and triple teaming him and hacking him every time he gets a clear basket, because he's not a great free throw shooter and he's just getting physically beat up. And the reason that happens is what we were talking about earlier, where the guards aren't a big enough threat with their shooting and their driving and all that. So you're sinking in the paint. You're taking Umar out of the game, or at least making life super difficult for him. And until the guards open things up, that's just going to be how difficult it is for Umar every single game.
That said, before we move on to some football, I am going to give and I could look stupid on this. I believe that Arizona sweeps the LA schools at home this week. Am I stupid? Do you agree with me? I know you're a big Andy Enfield guy.
I think UCLA is a very difficult matchup with the way they're defending, but I do think Arizona responds well. I'm leaning towards a sweep. I think, and part of it is like UCLA has to lose eventually. They're not running the table. And I think Arizona, if there's a motivation problem this week, there are very much bigger issues than losing a game to Oregon. But I think Arizona responds well this week.
Now, do you think that now let's talk about Andy Enfield, because you're still Andy Enfield denier, but every single year, no matter who they lose, they're always kind of in that same range. This year is no different, Jason Scheer. Will there ever be a moment when you say to yourself, you know what, Andy Enfield's a little better than I thought he was?
No.
Oh.
I think he's no, we do this with Bobby Hurley too. I think Andy Enfield is good for USC.
Right.
Would you hire Andy Enfield at Arizona?
No.
There you go.
Well, but he doesn't.
Andy Enfield at Texas.
No.
There you go.
But he is all right. Fair enough. Whatever.
He's not a bad coach.
All right. So you rescind those comments in the past when you said that he sucked.
I said I don't think he sucks. I think he's an average coach. Good recruiter though. Number one player in the country coming in.
Good recruiter. Oh, by the way, how good is that guy? I would imagine he's very good.
He's legit. He's a problem. He's only 1 year, but he's good.
Andy Enfield is going nowhere, my friends. Nowhere. All right. Now let's talk a little bit Arizona football, because had a bunch of people ask me some questions too about what's going on with the defensive back position. And obviously Dwayne Walker's moved on. He's taken to Twitter with a lot of leadership tweets that are hold on just a second. Rich, I'm telling you, trust us here. We're going to
never trust a guy named Rich,
Right. We're trust me on this one, Rich. Yes, for sure. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about the Arizona football right now. Couple things. First, Dwayne Walker has moved on. This was obviously a move that Jed Fish was Dwayne Walker didn't move on his own. This was a move that Jed Fish obviously did. So now what's the next move at that defensive back position?
I love Dwayne, but Dwayne's a good example. Sometimes you just don't tweet what you want to tweet.
Right.
Signs point to Dwayne Aquina. It's not done yet from what I understand, but if you're into that stuff, Dwayne Aquina's latest Twitter follow is Jed Fish. Mm-hmm. But, I was going to post that, but there's other names. I know Fish has interviewed other names, but Fish is really quiet with his coaching and his assistant searches. But there's a lot of internal pressure for Dwayne Aquina, and there's other guys stepping up for him. Obviously, Humley and Cease are going to step up for him. They could do much worse than Dwayne Aquina, but it kind of feels like it would be a surprise if it's not him, but it is not done yet.
Have you come around on Dwayne Aquina from when you first heard about it? When I told you, Jason, this is a good hire, have you come around to Mike Luke's point of view?
Yeah, what's it called when it's not racist, but when you're against old people? Ageism. I have a little bit of ageism going on. But when you look at his resume, just because I believe in a young recruiting guy, but when you look at the resume and you look at the roster, they probably need a guy that can go out and teach. And when you look at Dwayne Aquina, he still likes to recruit. He'd obviously retire here in Tucson, and you look at his resume, and that should be enough to recruit when he lays out all the dudes that he sent to the NFL and All-Americans and all that. So I've come around on him.
All right. One thing that I like about Aquina as well, and this isn't a put down to the coaching staff, I have no clue if Johnny Nansen is a good defensive coordinator. He could be great. I have no clue. I have no clue if Chuck Cecil is a good coach. I know for a fact that Dwayne Aquina is a good coach, and that to me is a little bit easier about things.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we know what Dwayne Aquino's done. He has the background, and we know that he can come in and knows what he's doing with the position. The only concern is how much say does he get with the defense overall? Does he want a bigger pitcher type of position, or is he willing to come in and just coach corners? I think that's probably something that's been discussed, but obviously he's going to come in and if he's not successful, it's probably an Arizona issue.
Right, for sure. Now, can they bring now let's talk a little bit about the linebacker spot. Obviously, another guy, sour grapes on the way out. A lot of comments from the Roberts family. But at the end of the day, I don't care about that because he was going to be a distant fourth on the depth chart, assuming Leviticus Sua does commit to the U of A, which I believe that Leviticus Sua will be part of this U of A class. No inside information, but wink, wink. I think you're looking at a 3 linebacker unit right there of Justin Flo, Jacob Manu, and Leviticus Sua, and I think that's a dramatic improvement.
And you forgot Daniel Hamuli, the transfer from Washington, who came in really highly,
top 100 kid.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden you're like, well, if we have 4 really good linebackers, let's go to that 3 linebacker set.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where things are trending. At least, Nansen will take it more seriously, but these are upgrades. I'd rather have Hamuli over Roberts. I'd rather have Sua over Colby Cage or whatever it is.
Right.
Like, these are very clear upgrades at a position that is very important in Nansen's defense.
All right, now I want to talk a little bit about the offensive line here in a second, but 2 things. Let's just say that you want to go to a game, but you don't know where to find tickets, and you're like, you know what, 621 Cats isn't working for me. Is that still a thing, 621 Cats?
I have no idea.
All right, well, either way, Game Time is here for you. Here's what you do. You hop on to Game Time. They can get you many times deals at 60% off for sporting events, for concert venues, you name it, they got it. Check out the show notes and the link in the description. We've had people on the post game who have done this. So again, check it out. Game Time and Mountain Mike's. Mountain Mike's Pizza, very good pizza. I've tried it. Jason Scheer, I believe you've tried it as well. Have you not?
Yeah, it was solid. Not bad.
All right, it was solid. And Jason Scheer, you know what? This is a man that likes his pizza. So if he vouches for it, it's good. Check it out. Oracle and Wetmore. Fun setup. Lots of TVs. TVs always matter in the grand scheme of things. So check it out. Mountain Mike's Pizza. All right. When it comes to this offensive line or this team, to be honest with you, Jason, the position I'm most worried about is the tackle position. You got Jordan Morgan coming back, but again, he's going to be 9 months removed from an ACL. But at that right tackle position, I have no clue what to expect. What is Raymond? And Raymond Polito's not an early enrollee either. It would be nice if he was. But what are you looking at that right tackle position?
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest question by far, maybe on the entire offensive side of the ball, because you could bring in Polito, but you're asking a lot. If he's not enrolling, I like that question. If he's not enrolling,
that was a great question. Yeah,
you're asking a lot for him. Sam Lange is a guy that was inconsistent. That he played well sometimes, other times he was not good at all. Do they move things around and guard? They got options now. Of course, they could go to the transfer portal. I mean, there's still plenty of guys in there. There's guys that are going to be entering the portal in the spring, so it's not out of the question. But that is, to me, that's probably the biggest concern on offense.
Gary Bryant Jr., where does he end up? Wide receiver, transfer from USC.
I would lean towards Arizona right now.
I would too. You're back in the A.
Think about it this way. He wasn't going to visit Arizona initially. In his initial, when we talked to him, he was going to be Texas A&M this weekend. Now it's Arizona this weekend. He visited Miami. He knows guys on Arizona. The coaching staff actually recruited him when he was at USC. He's going to come in and probably start. He'd probably start right away. I think Arizona probably has a lead. You never know how much Miami's going to pay, but it's also not that type of family. They want Gary in the NFL, and they're going to do what they need to in order to make sure that is the biggest guarantee and not an NIL check. My
biggest concern about Gary Bryant, though, is that obviously he can play, but I don't want to lose Kevin Green, and I don't want to lose some of these other guys there. I would like to see more than just playing 3 receivers this year. Is that a possibility, or are we only going to see 3 receivers all season?
No, I agree with that. I think what happens with Jed and receivers is, like, in his mind, Jacob Cowing came back. Kevin Green is his backup. When Cowing goes, Green will step in and start. Gary Bryant will step in for, like, Singer. And T-Mac will be whatever. And so their pitch is like, yeah, look, you're not going to get as many reps, but in a year you're our starting wide receiver. So it's hard to do. Kevin Green seems happy, but we'll see what happens.
All right, Scheer, where can they find you? What you got all kinds of stuff going on right now. Lots of great threads at Wildcat Authority, but don't let me push it out there. Let you put it out there.
Yeah, wildcatauthority.com, on Twitter at Jason Scheer. And keep in mind with Wildcat Authority, when you sign up and after the trial run, you get Paramount Plus for free. So it's like a whatever dollar value. It's pretty high. So it's a good deal.
And you get, here's the better thing too. You get direct access 24 hours a day to Jason Scheer.
Yeah.
That's worth its weight in gold.
I don't sleep. I'm here for you.
You are. He's Jason Scheer. I'm Mike Luke. Again, great comments. Appreciate all of you. I'll be back with you tomorrow. As always, you've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.